Welcome to Feelings and Other F Words. I'm Dr. Daryl Appleton, and I almost just spilled my coffee all over myself. We avoided disaster, but welcome. Here we are, ready to go. This week's F word is one of my favorites. And I know I say that every week, but truly in theory, in research, in practice, in application, this one takes the cake for me. And that's because we are talking about the psychology and the signaling of fashion. Now, this is not a conversation about materialisticness. Is that a word? We're not talking about like, what brands are you wearing? Oh my God, like you should spend $100,000 on your wardrobe each year. Like, no, we are talking about the link between what we wear and the stories we tell with what we wear and how we're perceived. And probably most importantly, how to use this as a tool in your toolbox. Now, our guest is fantastic. She's amazing. I'll introduce her in a second, but she is quite literally so amazing. And our conversation got very deep and very raw. So I challenge you all to listen to this episode with an open mind, with a grain of salt, because we're talking about a lot of direct and hard truths, because I think sometimes fashion gets a bad reputation of people being shallow. And hopefully after listening to this, you can see maybe how you can use your wardrobe to your advantage without spending $1 bazillion. It's not about the money. It's about the story you're telling. So let's get into the nerdy stuff, because I think the frame of this is incredibly important. Research shows that we judge people very quickly. Like that, don't like that, I don't care. The research says that we judge people within 7 to 27 seconds of meeting them. This is the whole first impression thing. This is a gut feeling. And this was really popularized by the book Blink and Malcolm Gladwell. And there's a bunch of research that supports it. But studies do show it takes about 7 seconds to decide if we trust someone. And guess what does the talking first? Your clothes. Your clothes. If I show up in a dirty, stained t-shirt and jeans, I was about to say assless chaps, but I guess, yes. If you're seeing me in a dirty t-shirt and assless chaps, you may form some opinion, right? And then you might be shocked to be like, oh my God, that's Dr. Daryl Appleton. Like, oh my God, she's going to get up on stage and speak and talk in that outfit, right? Like, it would be distracting from my message. You would be, the juxtaposition would be too much. But it is something that is important to understand, that we do judge people. And this is from an evolutionary context of we needed to assert, our brains needed a trigger to assert for danger. Now, over the years, it can be, not even over the years, it's been manipulated for millennia. The Tinder swindler, what's her name? Anna Delphi, is that it? The fake German heiress, like, con people throughout history have leaned into the fact that if they dress or present a certain way, they could assimilate into a culture that maybe they wouldn't have had access to before, or they could make people trust them or think one thing with it actually being another. So again, with great power comes great responsibility. But all that to say, your clothes do matter because they do tell a story. Beyond the storytelling, it actually impacts competence, which is wild to me. Now, they did a study and they used the term enclothed cognition. And this is a study that was done, and you've probably heard about it, that people who wore a lab coat and they were told that it was a doctor's coat had better focus and made half as many, told it was a doctor, they had better focus and made less errors on test. But when they were told it was a painter's coat, the effect actually vanished. So literally, people were handed the same exact white coat, but they were told it was a doctor's coat or told it was a painting coat, and they did differently. They did better when they thought that they had embodied that of a doctor. I mean, it's amazing how easily our brain can be manipulated if you think about it. So yeah, enclothed cognition is something that is very real. Same coat, different story, different brain. Lots of research on color and emotion. Color psychology shows that what we wear can boost or dampen our mood. Bright colors, yellows, reds, are linked to an increase in energy, and neutral colors or dark shade can evoke calm or seriousness. So again, like walking into a place or a space and trying to evoke an emotion, think about your colors, think about your style and what you're wearing. There's also a study on power outfits, and 96% of women say that what they wear actually impacts their confidence levels. And this was also supported by a poll in the Huffington Post in 2014 that found that 62% of people said putting effort into their outfits makes them also feel more confident. I mean, yes. If you think about, again, evolutionary psychology, war paint, putting on armor, like this idea of like wearing your colors, you could see it in sports, like being one with the tribe, supporting your team. Like there was stuff about that allowed you to feel more confident, but even more so, it went into social signaling. Now, fashion is a primal form of signaling, and signaling means you are showing somebody what it is that you want them to receive, a signal that you're trying to get across, so to speak. And I'm probably not explaining that to the best of my ability, but we will get into it later, trust me. Now, wearing designer logos, trendy pieces, your faith, a cross if you're Christian on a t-shirt signals your tribe. It signals your values. It signals your aspirations. And this is rooted in the classic social signaling theory that I think it was 1899, 1900. Like it's been around for a while. Now, you think you're wearing jeans, but they tell a story about you, right? You think you're wearing a band t-shirt, but it tells a story about you. And you might be like, this is exhausting. Like I have to monitor every single thing that I wear. I mean, yes and no. I think time and place matters. If you're going out and about, or if you're meeting new people, or if you're trying to assimilate into a different culture, so to speak, it is important. And when I say culture, I mean like actual culture to like, ooh, country club culture, or I want to be taken seriously in this band. Like it doesn't matter. I think there's something to be said about that. Now, this doesn't mean it changes your identity. This doesn't mean it changes who you are. It's just amplifying a story you are trying to get out to people. We go into this whole kind of conversation about old money and the old money aesthetic. And, TikTok today does a really great job of separating these things of like tradwife, cottage core, grandma, coastal grandma vibes, right? Those are all signaling. And our houses and the way that we decorate our house, like, again, this is social signaling. Now, my guest is somebody who knows how to use this and has taught other people how to use fashion and styling to their advantage to help tell these stories. We are going to get into it with my friend, Rachael Kennedy. She is an author, an image consultant. She founded the Kennedy Curie and has spent decades helping men and women turn their wardrobes into confidence engines. And there's something about that where I just love her communication and her style, just as a person, but like also how she helps other people get there and helps people guide them, or helps to guide other people to show up as themselves, right? Like almost pulls out authenticity from them and allows them to really lean into that and helps them put on clothes or present themselves in a way that matches what is happening in their soul. Like she's no joke. She's been featured in Vogue, Martha Stewart, Forbes. She's partnered with brands like Sephora, Target, Ulta, and she masters that feeling. Like she exudes that when you look at her Instagram, when you see her on your screen as she's coming up in a second, like she exudes everything that she is talking about, which I love about her. She is authoring a book right now. She's penning a book, a new book, and it's exploring connection, belonging, and why we hide parts of ourselves behind what we wear and how to be more authentic and connect with others through all of these skills that she has done professionally and personally throughout her life. But really, as we get into it, Her and I are unpacking the deep stuff. Why your closet might be the loudest secret keeper, how faith and fashion aren't necessarily opposites, how your next power outfit might just change more than your reflection, and how we can separate feelings from facts and use fashion as a vehicle to get there. So stay tuned. We're going to get into it with my guest, Rachael Kennedy, right now. I am here with my internet best friend. I met Rachael online. I followed her after this amazing reel that like popped up or somebody sent me. And she was talking about how getting ready, going to the grocery store, like wear your outfit. Get dressed, get out, don't wear your sweatpants. And you were actually commenting on like people are like hating on it. They're like, oh, pretty girls like you would say something like that. And the way that you handled it, I was like, oh, I like this woman. Like, I like what she's talking about. I like how she handled this. But there was something about us that connected on like this like deep level, I feel like, around feelings and behavior and utilizing your physical space to influence your emotional feelings. So like how did tell me everything. Like how did we get here? How did you get there? Like you've had a long history of things, but like break it down for everybody who doesn't know you yet.
Yeah, thank you for that intro. I appreciate that. And it's so funny. I feel like we know each other well, but even though we've actually not met physically in person at this point, we will
Right.
get to that eventually. But years ago, I remember when I was a kid, my mom would always say, wear it like you mean it. And she would let me and my brothers literally wear anything in public. I'm not even kidding. If my brother wanted to wear a Spider-Man costume to the dentist appointment, she acted like it was totally fine.
That's
And I
amazing.
think this encouraged me to just honestly wear whatever I want and show up like I mean it. And something I realized after I got married very young, the first time I got married was very young, and I turned to what I was wearing a lot to boost my confidence. My husband's job was in the military. He was an officer, and so I had a lot of officer wives duties. If someone knows someone in the military or they've been in the military, or you can just Google it. I mean, there's even TV shows about this, and I would say they're pretty accurate as far as like the politics of it and how you show up and who you can and can't be seen with and the parties and dinners and things you have to throw. And so part of my security blanket and not really knowing how to perform this job, especially at a very young age, was the way that I dressed. And so I gained a lot of confidence through figuring out my color palette and what my body type was, and the best hairstyle for me, which didn't always choose the best over the years. Thank God Facebook like was is and social media is a more recent thing, because there's photos of me floating around with like blonde bleach hair somewhere that I'm like, please let them never surface. Um, so
Right.
it was a journey getting there. But I realized at some point, I remember one day I had to show up to this thing, and I didn't feel I felt terrible. I wasn't sick, but I just was not having a good day. I was really having an off day. And I remember not feeling like going, and I really thought about canceling, but I had this great dress that I was going to wear. And when I put it on, I looked in the mirror, and it reminded me of this quote by Marilyn Monroe, and she said she can become her. Like she would almost have like this switch that she flipped, where she knew this version of herself that was confident and happy was buried deep in her psyche. And so
Mm.
she would choose to kind of turn it on when she needed it, and she could turn it off when she didn't feel like it. And I thought, you know, feelings are these things that kind of come and go based on our surroundings and things that are outside of our control. But what if I got to decide which ones of these feelings I attached myself to, or I decided to listen to, or I sat with for a certain period of time? What if right now I don't want to feel that way, or I don't have time to feel that way, or I'll miss out on something if I sit with this feeling too long? If I had sat with the feeling of I don't feel like doing this, I'm overwhelmed, whatever, I wouldn't have ended up doing it. And there was a woman I ended up meeting that night who we've been nearly best friends since then, and that was 2013. So I would have missed out on a 12-year long relationship now that has carried me through some of the darkest times of my life had I not pushed my feelings aside. I'm not talking about suppressing or anything like that. I'm talking about digging down into your willpower and saying, this is actually not good for me to sit with this feeling right now. This feeling is possibly going to sabotage
Mm.
night, my morning, my next day. I don't want, I don't actually want to feel this way. And so from that point on, when I ended up starting my company years later, and I do a lot copywriting, image consulting, helping people formulate an image online that matches their reality and who they want to be perceived as. I realized that a lot of what holds people back from becoming who they want to be or stepping into these roles where they envision themselves to be an author or a blogger or a public speaker, or maybe they just want to level up in their career and they're getting out of college and they're intimidated by going into the career field, is is attaching too much meaning to the feelings. And that is what holds people back a lot. Because oftentimes I don't really feel like working out. I don't really feel like doing chores. I don't really feel like doing any of those things you have to do to literally just keep your day to day life going. And if I think too much about how I feel, I end up attaching a lot of my attention to myself, and it becomes miserable. It really actually just becomes miserable to focus on myself so much. And that's where it originated from. Is I know it's a triggering idea to not focus on yourself so much. I know it's a triggering idea to not sit with your feelings and let that overtake your whole day and in the evening with Grey's Anatomy for the 11th time and a pint of ice cream. But that's the easy out. People, I think, have started believing that sitting with your feelings is this like hard inner work that you're doing, but it's another level of I think ignoring the real problem, which is that you gotta move through the feelings and take action. And at some point, the feelings can't be what decide everything that you do.
And this is why I love you. And this is why we connected. I
Yeah.
feel the same exact way. And off camera, we were talking about therapy culture and we were talking about this move from community and from whether that's organized religion, whether that's just like, volunteering. I saw research on volunteering, how the numbers are dismal right now. We're not volunteering, we're not helping others, and focusing on us and how we feel, and that main character energy that we put out there a lot can actually be a bit damaging or limiting. And I love what you said of like, I help people identify who they want to be online, or how they want people to interact with them or their brand. And I guess like bring me through, what is that process like of working with somebody, like basically telling them, if you were not afraid, like what would you do? Like how do you get people to truly see themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. I have to take myself through this process sometimes, and I did this recently actually, which is how I know it works. But whenever someone comes to me and says, "I want to," I'll take it for example, this male client that I had maybe a year and a half ago. He wanted to start doing more public speaking, and he'd been in, he was a like special forces in, I think I don't remember what branch of the military it was at this point. He was a special forces guy, and he had this very like rugged, heavy look. And he liked to talk about business productivity. Like he had started his own business when he got out of the military, and he'd used a lot of this training that he gotten while he was in the military for this entrepreneurial journey that he was on. And so his frameworks and all of this stuff is very good, solid stuff. But when he would show up, or when he would be pitching himself or whatever for speaking opportunities, oftentimes people looked at his appearance and they wouldn't book him because they thought they were going to get a certain type of
Mm.
messaging from him. And it turned a lot of people off in like the corporate world. And so I asked him, I said, "Do you want people to know all of these things about you and your background and be impressed by that? Or do you want to be booked so that you can teach people these strategies?" And I was like, "Which is more important to you, being understood as the person that you used to be, or being seen as the person you are now who has something that can help these people?" And he's like, "I'm willing to change anything to get more bookings." And I was like, "All right, then you're going to need to lose a little bit of weight." He was overweight. I mean, he didn't have this like trim like appearance. And I think that was holding him back a lot, because when people think of strategy and implementation and streamlined efficiency, they're wanting to look at somebody who looks like they have their own personal life together. And I mean, it's the same with even a therapist or coach or something. If I don't see that this person has their life together, it really makes me wonder if they're going to be able to help me. And so I was like, "Listen, you're not the healthiest you've ever been. Like, let's consider this. Like, would you be willing to do that? I was like, I think you need a clean shaven look. And instead of wearing like graphic t-shirts and like with a blazer over it, like let's get you some like fitted suits and things like that. So 6 months later, I mean, he didn't have like a whole lot of work to do. It was minor cosmetic changes. He had trimmed up a little bit. He got a haircut. We changed up his style a little bit. Figured out some basic colors and things for him. And that was basically it. I mean, after that, he really didn't have a problem booking because he had the strategy, he had the structure, he had the business savvy. Like he was great with emails and phone calls and sales and all of that. But his appearance was holding himself back because he was attached to this version of himself he used to be. And I was like, this version of yourself you used to be is what got you here, but it's not who you are now. And so your physical appearance needs to match the person you are, because I hate to say it, human nature, we make snap judgments on people
Hmm.
based on their appearance. And while it might not be fair, it's a fact.
Hmm.
So, do we want to be upset about this, or do we see it as a tool in our toolbox of communicating and connecting with people and recognize human nature is this way for a reason? We have eyes for a reason, we have all of these senses for a reason. Why are we denying that our appearance and our demeanor and the way that we present ourselves will could possibly be sabotaging what it is that we actually want? And I
Right.
think for a lot of people, there's this little layer right under that that's like, well, everyone should accept me as I am, and I shouldn't have to change anything to be loved. And it's true, you shouldn't have to change anything to be accepted and loved. But are people actually able to see who you really are, or are you hiding behind this resistance to up-leveling yourself or becoming a better version of yourself? Maybe because you're worried of the work that you'll have to do, or maybe because you're worried of what you'll have to admit that you're not really where you want to be, or you recognize that it's holding yourself back. So maybe it's not other people, maybe it's yourself.
Right. Right.
So that's a kind of the process, is identifying who is it that you want to reach, what do those people need to see to believe you, and then making adjustments to get there.
And I think you're spot on with the psychology and the even evolutionary psychology of we are taught to look first and put people in boxes. That's how we judge. That's how we stay quote unquote safe. Like
Right.
there's so much about appearance. And I love the work that you've done on image and fashion and all this other stuff of communicating, because that's really what this is. It's communication. And you've done so much in the world of communication. You're writing about it, like you're doing a lot on it. Tell me more about how we communicate that maybe we don't know or understand.
I think we communicate through our body language, visual cues, the way that we choose to dress. I mean, one example is people buying into like designer goods and wearing logos. They want to signal to other people, I have good taste, or I belong in a certain social circle, or oh, you can trust me. I know what this brand is.
Mm.
And so people will put themselves in boxes. People will identify what box they want to be put in, and then they will dress in a way that puts themselves in that box. I remember when and it might still be, but this whole like old money style was very popular. And it was because people wanted to be perceived as it wasn't about wanting to even be perceived in a certain way, the dressing, but the term old money style is like people wanted to be perceived as someone with a long, strong, substantial, grounded, rooted lineage. And
Hmm.
it came from wanting a sense of belonging, like, oh, my family cared about me enough to put me in this position later in life. And so I want to appear to be able to live this life of leisure, not because I want everyone to think I'm rich, but because I want everyone to think I'm supported and that I'm valuable. And so I think some of these trends come from wanting people to perceive you as more valuable, strong, worthy, intelligent. It comes from wanting people to feel a certain way about you, not just assume certain things, because you can put whatever you want on a credit card. I mean,
Right.
you can do that.
Correct.
Like, and so that's the way to buy into a perception of importance, is through buying designer things and designer goods. And I mean, everyone thinks about this. I myself think, will this go with that? Or is this too flashy or ostentatious? Or will people think that I'm tacky if I do that? And it's normal to find pride in your appearance, and it's a good thing to identify what you think looks good on you, because if you think that you look good, you show up in a calmer, more authentic way, and then you're able to be vulnerable. You're able to really let people see who you are. So you can kind of get the image part out of the way. You can start feeling safe. It's almost like being in a relationship. Like when a woman feels safe and a man like brings her nervous system to that safe place, she can be playful, she can be joyful, she can be creative. But if she doesn't have that structure to feel safe in, he's not going to get that joyful, behavior from her. So it's the
Yeah.
same with curating your image. It's like, how do I feel the most myself? Where do I feel the most comfortable? Like, where's that spot so that I can relax and start showing up as the person I want to be?
Mm-hmm. And where does it get to be too much, right? In my mind, I'm like, yes, absolutely. And then I can hear people in my head listening to this being like, okay, so like, where's the line then? Like, how am I not cosplaying this? Like, how do I show up, let people see who I am because I have carefully chosen how I want to be seen? And then how do I show where myself is? And where do I need to be careful about not letting the image take over the personality or the authenticity?
Absolutely. This is my favorite part. And so this is the one part where I would say, yes, focus on yourself. This is the one instance where this works because in every single human being is coded in exactly what you need to know who you are. Like your color palette, for example, you were born with that. You can't change it. You don't have to worry about it. It was created for you. So that tells you right there what colors are going to look best on you. Your body type, if you have wider shoulders, if you have a narrow waist, if you have wide hips, if you have a shorter torso, all of those things is a map to telling you what's going to look good on you, what is going to give you a balanced, comfortable appearance. So when I realized, oh, I have like the creator of the universe has given us a blueprint to know who we are. If I just focus on that and I ignore trends and what the trending color palette is and all of that, you can create a timeless style for yourself so that no matter how fashions change over the decades, you know who you are because you are in your own body. Like you're not going to wake up one day and have a different eye color. You're not going to wake up one day and have a different skin tone. You're not going to wake up one day and no longer have your father's nose. Like you know who you are based on who you physically have become as a person. And that happens on its own. You don't have to think about breathing. You don't have to think about, will I continue growing as I get older? You don't have to think about those things. So the answers to what should I wear? How should I dress? What styles look good on me? Am I a person who should wear shoulder pads or should I do the mini skirt trend? The answer is in your own body. It really is. And what you're going to discover is if you could find enough out about your body. I mean, there's so many resources out there like color palette analysis apps. I have one on my website actually. It's like a free one. You take a selfie and then it tells you like what season you are.
Mm-hmm.
And then finding out like what body type you have. Like there's some pretty simple guides out there. I have an ebook on my website about like where to take the measurements, and then it kind of gives you like a blueprint for that. And then what you find is that as the years go by and trends come and go, you can either buy into them and like, oh wow, this trend actually supports my color palette, my body type, so I'm going to buy that, those cherry red boots because they actually do work for me. And then the next year rolls around and you're like, butter yellow, that doesn't work for me. Like I already know that's not in my palette, so I'm not going to worry about it. And so what happens is you over time of you define like figuring out those things about yourself, like what's my color palette, what's my body type, and then over the years you add things to your wardrobe and accessories and you kind of switch out the stuff that doesn't work for you anymore. You recognize that you no longer have this insatiable need to search or chase after the latest trends because you are the trend. Like you decide then, does it work for me? Instead of the other way around where it's like, oh, well, this is the latest thing. I have to wear this or I won't be noticed. People who dress for themselves, like women who have a classic style that works for them, stand out way more than people who are wearing like whatever the latest thing is right now. And it's not because they're even dressed expensively, it's because they're just assured in themselves.
Right.
So in a sea of trends, the easiest way to stand out, the easiest way to feel confident is to focus on yourself and what looks good on you. And that is the one time I would suggest ignore what everyone else is doing and focus on yourself.
Right.
This is a time when you can do that. So
Right.
that's the secret sauce, really.
And it's so interesting because I'm thinking like my job is self-awareness, getting people to be more self-aware to make better decisions. And your
Yeah,
job is self-awareness of getting people self-aware to make more curated, intentional decisions in different directions and connecting people with resources, people, communities, family, friends, right? That
yeah,
they can be a part of and live joyously with. And for you guys listening out there, I feel like a lot of you might be like, that's shallow, too bad. This I truly believe that, right? Like this is a huge piece of life that you either utilize or you don't, and you would be foolish not to.
I
However
agree.
you feel about it, you'd be foolish not to.
Yeah, and people say that it's shallow, but the fashion and cosmetic industry is billions and billions and billions of dollars. So I'm going to ask anybody who says that's shallow, even the people who say, well, I don't care what anyone thinks about what I'm wearing. Yes, you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't have brought it up. You know,
Mm.
I had like a long period of time where I was super convinced I needed Botox, I needed lip fillers, all of that stuff. And what I was really trying to do was I was trying to look like all the people who I thought were getting the most attention and who I admired. When in reality, what I was doing was I was trying not to be left behind, and I was trying to, how would I put this? I was trying to feel relevant because I wasn't hadn't taken the time to really get to know myself. I
Mm.
hadn't really taken the time to figure out like I remember I went through this phase. This might have been like 2016 where like the balayage was
No.
very popular. I don't understand what we were doing there. I have no answers for that. I had lip filler blindness at some point. Like it made no sense.
Right.
I Botox, lip filler. And this was, I mean, at this point, that would have been almost 10 years ago. So I was in my late 20s. And in your late 20s, to be spending that kind of money and being that worried about injectables in your face, like, only in this generation have we even thought about that kind of stuff. Like, it's insane. And so when you really step back and you're like, why am I doing all of these things? I say that I don't care, or I'm maybe some people are like, well, I'm going to show up in sweatpants and whatever on purpose because people should just have to deal with me. You do care, you know?
Mm.
I don't, I've never met a person who doesn't care what other people think of them. And that is a normal thing. It's a normal thing to care what other people think of you because that allows you to know if you are attracting the right tribe. Am I in the right job? Do I enjoy what I'm doing? Are my friends actually supporting me? And am I in the right relationship? So, worrying about what other people think of you is not something that we should become obsessive about.
Mm.
But if we recognize that we do think about it, maybe we need to ask ourselves the questions, what is it about myself that I am worried other people won't like?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was, I don't, are my lips pillowy enough? Do I have, a few amount of wrinkles? In the mid 20s is absurd to even, the fact that I was even thinking about that is a testament to the marketing endeavors of the beauty industry, honestly. But I was
Mm-hmm.
totally sucked in. I was totally sucked into it. And I woke up one day and it was like, I want to say this was about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe. And I don't know what, but I just was tired of the thought of doing it again. And I just stopped. One day I just didn't make another appointment. And now here I am now at 37, not a trace of any of that stuff in my system anymore. Unfortunately, sometimes I am like, should I? But I ask myself, why? Why do you think that you should?
Right.
And so those are moments when it is good to sit with your feelings and be like, why am I feeling like I need to go get this done? And there's nothing wrong with getting it done. I mean, when I was younger, one side of my lip was uneven because um I'd hit my face when I was really little, like jumping on the bed. I
Mm.
jumped off the bed and I hit my face on a windowsill, and it one side of my lip was, I don't know, it just continued to grow that way for years. And so getting lip injections evened that out. But there's so many reasons people want to do it, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But you need to ask yourself what your reason is and just be honest with yourself. Because if you can't be honest with yourself, you can't show up with vulnerability and authenticity and attract the right kinds of people in your life. And then you'll be asking yourself, how did I end up in this relationship? Or why am I at this job? Or why do I always feel like my friends are talking behind my back? Are you really the person you say that you are? Have you attracted the people that you feel comfortable and safe with? And are you putting on a mask every time you go out because you're so worried about what people think of you that you don't actually know who you are?
It's almost like this radical self-acceptance, right? It's like a love letter almost to self of taking the time. This is kind of what I'm hearing, the process of taking the time, figuring out who you are and who you're not,
Mhm.
allowing for there to be physical cues that signal that, like signaling is a real thing,
Mhm.
and attracting a tribe that has similar thoughts, feelings, values, and then again, auditing, editing, making sure that goes back into who you are, where you are, and almost the process recycles as you grow and evolve and change.
And that's the other thing is not every friendship and I think this is a part of the like toxic me culture that's out there is I see so many even like that TV show Friends or Frasier or Seinfeld. They place such importance on staying with the same friend group for decades. And that is not a good idea if those people are if you're not all on a trajectory of growth at the same time. Now, if you see someone struggling in your friend group, obviously, an intervention, pray for them, show up at their house with food and be like, what's going on? Like, I'm not leaving you here in the dust,
Mm,
obviously. I'm not saying, oh, move on when this person's not, of course not. But this idea where if you don't have the same group of friends for your whole life, like something's wrong with you, like, oh, you just don't have the depth or, you can't hold on for long enough. You got to stick it out, you got to grind through. And I don't think that every single relationship, like friend, job, is something that you necessarily need to force yourself to get through if the other party is resistant to that. If the other party is doesn't want the same things as you, like let's say that you are committed to something, but like maybe you're working with a team of people trying to get something done and you are the only person moving forward with it. It's okay to say, I want this to be a team, but it doesn't look like everyone is as committed to this as I am. So I'm either going to branch out off on my own and make sure this happens, or I'm going to try to create a different team of people and allow people to not be as impassioned about something as I am.
mm.
Not everybody has to be as excited about as you are about some project that you want to take on. And you shouldn't let that keep you from doing things. But I really do think, like you're saying, the process is looking at the cues you already have of what the reality is. What do I physically look like? If you're not sure who you are at any stage of your life, you can just look at where you physically are in that moment and be like, okay, this is where I am. Look at yourself in the mirror and appreciate yourself for that and say, how can I dress myself? What is a way that I could do my hair where, before I was spending so much time on it and I was having to do upkeep appointments every 3 months and I find that that's burning me out. Maybe I don't actually enjoy having balayage hair. Maybe I don't actually like that. Maybe I'm just doing that because that's the 2016 trend and I actually kind of hate it.
Right.
And questioning what your reasons are for the stuff that you get obsessive about doing.
That makes sense to me. I mean, and again, like, there's no better way to have self awareness or to cultivate it than starting with self. And it doesn't need to be like the deep stuff of like, why am I the way I am? It can be like, okay, why do I like this or not like this? Or why do I
Mhm.
put on this suit that I bought? Because my mom said it would be great for my first interview, but I feel like I feel lost in it. Is it the fit? Is it the color? Is it the context? Have I just
Right.
never worn a suit and I need to wear it a bit more because like I got to get used to it? That I think is valuable for unlocking self.
And just because something's uncomfortable doesn't mean it's not something you should do. For example, if someone has always dressed a certain way because one time an ex girlfriend or boyfriend or their mom said, this looks good on you, and then they do try something new based on, oh, I find out my body type is, XYZ. I find out that I actually look good in an autumn color palette, but I've never done that before. That's okay to feel uncomfortable. A transition typically isn't comfortable, and just because you feel uncomfortable, that's not a cue. That's not your gut or your intuition telling you to stop. Sometimes feeling uncomfortable is just the stretching of the muscle. It's like a workout where you're like,
Mhm.
this does not feel good, but like I've got to exercise this muscle or we're not going to get any stronger. It's
Mhm.
building capacity to feel uncomfortable during the transition phase, to feel uncomfortable doing the things you don't want to do to get where you're trying to go. I mean, if we stop every time we feel uncomfortable or, oh, this isn't right, I'm not sure, and we say like, oh, it's gut, it's instinct, oftentimes it's fear.
Yes.
Oftentimes it's just your primal brain trying to protect you, and it's not real reality. And I have watched people create stories in their minds. I used to do this too. I even, I have to check myself even now doing this. You create a story in your mind based on cues from a past situation, and you're like, well, now this situation feels similar to that. So that must mean it's going to have the same outcome. And if you can, this is the moment maybe where it would be good to sit with your feelings for a second and kind of identify where in your body that's where it is. If it's in your chest, if it's in your gut, that's a fear-based response. If your shoulders are relaxed and you feel like a deep sense of knowing of peace and not like an anxiety, that's your intuition saying, no, we already know that this isn't for us. But if it's like
Yeah.
here,
Mm-hmm.
that is your body trying to play dead to protect yourself.
Yeah.
That's where you need to be like, okay, is this actually true, or I'm just afraid that it might be true based on a prior uncomfortable, terrible situation that I was in. And so there are moments when checking in with yourself or sitting with the feeling can be helpful, but it's not, I don't think that it needs to be the main tool in the toolbox of becoming who you want to be, because
Yeah.
it can just take forever. When's the cutoff point for sitting with it?
And they do say, and this is where I get very frustrated with therapy culture, especially insta therapy culture, of like, sit, journal. Why? Why did this happen? Why did they react this way? Why? There's nothing wrong with journaling, but the questions we ask ourselves matters to
Mm-hmm.
the answers we will get. If I ask the wrong question, I'm going to get a response that is either confirming to my bias or, how I'm feeling in a certain moment or not. So instead of why questions, I try to teach people to like ask what questions. What
Mm-hmm.
happened? What's going on here? Where is this coming from? What do I need to do next? Like, why do I feel uncomfortable? I could put all my biases in that, being like, oh, well, this person doesn't like me. And that person, those are all stories. I don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily know, or maybe I do know. But what is like, okay, what do I need to do next? Because I'm not going to let this person stop me. And even the story that you told before, I love, of like, I didn't want to go because I was feeling blah, but I found something to anchor in of like this amazing fucking dress. And then I went and it was amazing because I met this person. Or even if I didn't go, you know what? I was happy I went because I have great pictures or I wanted to wear that dress somewhere.
Or because I proved to myself that I can trust myself. I can
Mm-hmm.
trust myself to do what I'm going to say. And if you can make a commitment and then you can follow through on your own word, that is a very valuable thing to have, because if you don't trust yourself to keep your own word to yourself, that's where the self-abandonment happens. That's where the making up stories about, well, this person doesn't care about me and this person blah blah blah, whatever it is. That is where those like spiraling things happen, because we self-abandon, because we rely on everybody else to give us validation and anchor us in safety, and we depend on that instead of, okay, I feel icky right now, and even if I hadn't had a great dress to wear, I think the fact that I told myself I was going to do it and I really was just nervous to be around a bunch of people I didn't know, okay, fine, do it anyway, and it's going to be uncomfortable, but you're going to be sitting at home probably wishing that you had gone. And so what? Like, life is short. I mean, I know that's the most cliched thing to say, but I might never have gotten invited to another party. I might, like, the sun might not have risen the next day. I mean, you don't know. And so part of it is you don't know if you're going to get another chance. That door, that opportunity, that moment, that could change your life forever. You don't know if you walk in somewhere and you're going to meet somebody that changes the course of your life forever. Or maybe you're going to meet the version of yourself that changes the course of your life forever. Maybe you're going to meet the version of yourself that didn't quit, that got up when they didn't feel like it and
Mm-hmm.
went anyway. And maybe that night you meet the version of yourself that you didn't know existed. So even if it's something small like that, maybe it's a small win, it's something that can give you more confidence in yourself. And the more confidence you have in yourself, the more relaxed you can be, the more safe you feel showing up vulnerable and in a vulnerable manner with other people. And vulnerability is honesty Vulnerability is knowing that you potentially have something to lose, but putting your cards out on the table anyway. That's real vulnerability. It's like people might actually think I'm stupid. People might think I'm crazy. And I'm going to do it anyway. That's vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
Not crying in front of people or being like, this is my sob story of this horrible thing that happened to me. And like, I need everyone to know so that they feel bad for me and buy my course, whatever, you know?
Right.
Real vulnerability is like,
Buy my course.
I'm going to get made fun of for this and I'm going to do it anyway.
And that to me is strength, right? And again, it's showing up for you. And in that way, that's not like my feelings matter. It's my feelings matter, and I'm still going to do the hard thing, which I have to imagine, to what we were talking about before, connects you, hopefully, to people also doing the same thing. And
Mm-hmm.
then allowing you to be a part of a community that reinforces this when you're
Yeah.
not feeling like you can, or is
Right.
pushing you to show up for yourself. And that to me is manifestation, right? Or it's prayers being answered, or however you want to frame it. It's all of these small little signals and cues and the story that you're weaving and laying out that then ultimately end up building the life that you want to, whether you feel like you're delulu or not in that. Like, I think there's something to be said about that.
Absolutely. And I have this thing where sometimes I'll wake up and I'll just be in this some weird funk. You know how it is. Like there's no it's just like Sunday scaries or whatever it is. And I'm like, you know what? I can feel sad and I can acknowledge I feel sad. I'm not really sure why. I'm just feeling in a funk, whatever. Or I can say, this is going to be the best day. What if this ends up being the best day of my entire life? And maybe you forget, like I'll say that sometimes. Maybe I forget that I said that later. But then what happens is you're always looking for reasons to be like, yep, I knew it. I knew I was lucky. I knew this was going to be a good day. And even if it's normal stuff like, oh, I got a parking spot right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the table at my favorite restaurant was free, even though the whole restaurant's packed. I walk in and my favorite table was free. I mean, just you start looking for reasons to support your delusional assumption
Mm-hmm.
that this is going to be the best day of your life. And so that's the manifestation. It's
Mm-hmm.
not that the reality has actually changed, it's that your perception of reality has changed. And I mean, this sounds maybe wacky, but people's perception of reality is the reality.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so if you're fine with your reality being, oh, nothing works out for me and I can't believe my bad luck and blah blah blah, these things happen to me, fine, that is how your reality is going to be. Or if you want to be one of the, why, how's she's the luckiest girl? How does all this stuff happen for her? Well, that's because that woman believes that she's really lucky and that really good things happen to her. And what that does is it causes you to look for those things. And then you see more and more of them. And then it suddenly feels like everything falls into place for me. Everything ends up being okay.
Right. No, there's something to be said about what you point your camera at, it records. Our vision is no different. Our attention and where it goes, that's what it records. That's what it sees, and that's what you're going to review back. I mean, and again, like, we're not talking about toxic positivity. Don't try to find the best in a person that is actively abusing you. Don't try to find the best in a situation that is clearly taking advantage of you. Like, there needs to be a separation in that. Well, I guess it's a good question for you. Like, how do we manifest? How do we look for the best, but also hold that line of whether it's respect or dignity? Like, how do we separate that?
I would say actions over words and promises and things every time. Like if someone says, like you're saying, how to know if you're being taken advantage of, different things like that. I would say, yes, listen to what people say because maybe that's all you're going to have to go on at first. But watch if their words align with their actions. So maybe they say, maybe you find out maybe you find out they were having a really bad day, but they showed up and like you guys got that work presentation done. You presented it in front of the team. Your boss was like, "Wow, this is incredible." And then you find out later, your team member says, "I'm really sad. I had a horrible day yesterday. I had a bad weekend. I'm not in a good mood. I'm really frustrated." Well, okay, you can feel all of those feelings and still show up and get your job done. So I would say, maybe if someone wants to share how they're feeling with you, but you see that they're actually still showing up, That's not a situation of you being taken advantage of. That's not a situation of, oh, this person's so emotional. This person's like, crazy, whatever. How are they always feeling this way? It's really, I think, actions over words. And again, going back to yourself, sometimes I say things in my head, or I'll be like, I'm going to do this. It's like, no, you're not. Like, I think like every luteal phase, during the month, I'm like, I'm gonna delete my Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm shutting down my business.
Right.
I'm going to Mexico. Like, we say things, and people just say stuff sometimes. Sometimes we just need to get something off our chest. Sometimes we have a wild, crazy idea where we're like, well, maybe I'll just shut everything down and I'll go live off the grid. It's like, let people say the stuff that they need to say to feel the freedom that they need to feel in that moment of pressure or stress or whatever it is. And then look at the actions. Did they shut down, and quit their job and leave, or were they having an off day and they just needed a moment to pretend that if I wanted to walk away from it all, I could, but I don't actually want to, like I actually want it. I want to be committed to this. I want to do this. I would say actions over words, and not letting every single person's feelings and words take so much of your energy.
Yes, I'm doing my
Just
golf clap. Yeah.
people need to talk about stuff sometimes. People need to come up with crazy ideas, and not every single thing that, you know, I was thinking about this the other day. Sometimes I'll say like off the wall shenanigan ideas, and I realize the people in my life are so supportive, and like, yes, they take me seriously, but they also know to just let me be emotional and whatever it is I need in that moment. And I need to let other people do that. Just because someone says, "Oh wow, I really wish I could just, shut off, go off the grid and whatever." I'm like, "Are you leaving me? Or is it over?" It's like, no,
Right.
sometimes people just need to talk about. So I would say, if you're trying to figure out, is this person taking advantage of me? Is this a red flag? It's, do the actions and words align? And is every single thing that someone says to be taken seriously, like the
Mm.
biblical truth? Or is it, sometimes we need to vent, sometimes we're having a bad day. That doesn't mean that every person's out to get you. And every time someone acts a little bit off or weird, doesn't mean they hate you. It's not a yellow flag. You don't need to file that piece of information away to be like, well, last week they did this, and so this week now this seems like a red flag. You know what I'm saying? Like, mentally escalating,
Mm.
you know, what was it? We used to have this thing in the news. They would say the terrorist alert or whatever it was. Do you remember that?
Right, right. Red alert, orange, red, yellow.
How likely is a terrorist attack to happen? And it was a emotional whiplash
Yeah.
constantly. So I feel like we do that with people in our lives and with ourselves. And I think we take feelings too seriously sometimes. We sit with them too long, we take them too seriously. Not every single thing needs to be broken down into a process and, like you said, journaled out and
Yeah.
spent that time on. It just doesn't need to be.
I like the phrase, it's not about you. Not everything's about you. It's not about
Not
you. It's not about you. And I think there's something about allowing for space. One of my clients was talking to me. She's like, "Can I tell you something terrible?" And I was like, "Yes, absolutely. I'm the person." She's like, "I have these divorce fantasies, not because I want to like leave my husband, but because like I just need some space from him and my kids. Is that wrong?" And I was like, "No. Are you going to divorce him? Or is there stuff going on?" She's like, "No." I'm like, "So you're looking for space. You're looking for like a moment to yourself." I get that. You are very seen. Can we have a conversation about how to get you that though, so you don't have divorce fantasies? But like, imagine if saying that out loud and somebody's like, "You hate me. You're going to divorce me. Fine. Like, I'm filing first." And then all of a sudden, it's like, I was just telling you something and maybe I quote unquote poorly said it. I don't think it was. But I do think that we also, to your point, grace. We need to give grace in order to receive grace, and we need to give grace to ourselves, but also to other people. We're not always
Mhm.
going to get it right. We're going to say some stuff that like the other person doesn't like, and we need to be mindful of that. But our actions do speak way louder.
And we take it wrong. Well, I think sometimes they get so spun up over the way they feel in the moment that they almost start looking for reasons to support this story that they've started to create in their head. Well, he said this. Oh, well, and then when he came home from work, he like didn't immediately give me a kiss hello. And like, we just start creating these narratives in our mind. Or it can be friendships, it can be work stuff. Like, my boss hates me because he didn't put an exclamation point at the end of that sentence. It was just a period. Like, these are real thoughts that people have, but we have to recognize that if you're having crazy thoughts, other people are having crazy thoughts too.
Yep.
It doesn't mean, like you're saying, your client has no intention of and doesn't want to divorce her husband. The real root below this was she needed some space and has poor communication skills and doesn't know how to communicate that to her husband
Mm-hmm.
and doesn't want her marriage to end, but there's a disconnect there of what she needs and her ability to communicate it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, ma'am. I mean, you are like a wealth of knowledge and information on so many different levels. How do people get in contact with you? How can we get your book when it's out and ready? Like, tell us a little bit about that too. And like, how can we stay in contact with you and keep up to date, or people who want to work with you, things like that? Tell me everything.
Thank you. Okay, best way to get all of that information is go to my website, authorrachelkennedy.com, and sign up for the email newsletter list. Sign up for the emails because it lets you decide like what you want me to send you. Like, do you just want me to send you the weekly email newsletter where I send like, the free ebook about how to figure out your body type, or a link to the color palette analysis app where you can figure that out? Or if you want to be notified when the book comes out, the book is about a lot of the things we just talked about, how to figure out who you are so that you can attract the right group of people, and how to do that repeatedly in a whatever cycle or phase you are in your life, and to reevaluate where you are so that you don't feel lost and you maintain that sense of purpose throughout your life. And yeah, the book's gonna be distributed by Simon & Schuster, so you'll be able to find it in Barnes & Noble. And right now it's 9 months, so it'll be March, early April, and like I actually have an actual date now. So as of last week, I have like a date. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
it's 9 months left, and it'll be out there, and so it's gonna go by fast. I know 9 months sounds like a long time. It's gonna go by a lot faster. So I'm hoping to drop the pre-sale link soon. We'll see. I'm not sure. My team will have to tell me when we can do that, but it's coming. So yeah, sign up on my website. I'm on Instagram. Like you said, I publish reels that will be controversial to some people. I mean, you will see there's some reels that have hundreds of comments where everyone's disagreeing with me. But for as many people are disagreeing, I'll look at the analytics and I see that like there's this one reel, 100,000 people like shared it, but then I had like 200 negative comments. So I'm like, I think that actually did reach the right audience.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're that audience, then you know where to find me.
She is amazing. You have to check her out. Everything you do, from your dinner parties to your features in Vogue to like everything that you're doing, speaks to me on like a bunch of different levels. But I love your authenticity. I love how you have gone through stuff in your life. This isn't fluff. Like, this isn't like, oh my God, she's so beautiful and lovely. Like, life must be easy for her. No, like, you are authentic and real and have done the work. And I adore you. And I'm happy to know you. I'm happy that like the algorithm brought us together, because I truly enjoy our conversations and our voice notes. Like, I love them so much. So everyone, check out Rachael, go to her website, get all the information. I've done the color analysis. Like, I love all that stuff. I love data. I love information. You guys should do it too. And hopefully we'll have her back when the book comes out and we can talk more about the book when it's out.
Yeah.
9 months. This baby's coming.
This baby's coming.
All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. And next week, don't forget another episode of Feelings and Other F Words coming to your airwaves. Talk to the end. Bye. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.